Sa ko si Udubay Ashur kay died beneath a truck full of dog food after pushing a stray dog out of its path. In my next life, my first successful healing spell ignored a wounded human and turned a dying wolf into a creature strong enough to bite through steel. The human belonged to Calder. He stood in the center of the awakening hall with one sleeve rolled up and a thin red line across his arm. 400 students watched from the stone seats. Above them, the academy ranking crystal shone like a second sun. Go on, Eton, Aaron, he said. Show everyone your legendary healing. Try not to kill me. The students laughed. I placed 2 fingers over the cut. My mana moved exactly as it had during practice. Warm light gathered under my palm. The testing stone confirmed that I had spent 5 points of mana. The cut remained open. 1 drop of blood rolled down Calder's wrist. The hall went silent for 1 breath. Then the laughter hit me like a falling wall. Calder inspected his arm. Amazing. It still hurts. I think he made the blood angrier. Professor Merrick did not smile. He looked at me as if I were a broken chair that had learned to speak. He was the head of Academy Reads, and one of his hands had been replaced by a metal gauntlet after a monster breach. Healing output 0, he announced. Control 0, practical value 0, final grade F. A black letter appeared beside my name on the ranking crystal. My position dropped from 609th to 1284th. It was the last position in the academy. The crowd cheered as if Calder had won a duel. I looked at the 3 covered cages behind Marek. Academy law required a healer to be tested on a human, a tame beast, and a spirit construct. There are 2 targets left, I said. Marek closed the record book. A real healer does not need 3 chances to close 1 scratch. The rule says every affinity must be tested. His metal fingers bent the corner of the book. Frank should not quote rules to professors. That was the unfair part. Failure did not bother me. Numbers were useful even when they were bad. A test stopped before the final 2 targets was not a result. It was a decision. Calder raised his uninjured hand. White light flashed. The cut vanished at once. 1 point of mana, he said loudly. Perhaps Aaron should become a cleaner. Dirt rarely complains when healing fails. My dorm key grew cold in my pocket. The ranking crystal had already cancelled my room and my weekly payment of 30 silver. At sunset, I would officially be homeless. I did not argue. Marek controlled the exam, the appeal board, and the raid assignments. Yelling at him would be like punching a castle door. The door would remain closed and my hand would become educational material. I walked down from the platform while whispers moved across the seats. Useless healer, false awakening, last place. Only one person did not laugh. Talia waited beside the supply table. A gray hood covered her small fox ears, but the end of her copper tail had escaped under her coat. Beast folk were allowed inside Astor Academy as workers, not as full students. She handed me a porter badge and a canvas pack. Professor Merrick assigned you to the afternoon raid, she said, and that was fast. He signed the order before your test began. I looked back at him. Marek was already speaking to Calder. Neither man looked surprised by my failure. Talia lowered her voice. The 3rd cage held a cave fox. It had a wounded paw this morning, for he ordered the servants to remove it before the hall opened. That was useful information. Oh, why tell me? Because you asked for the rest of the test instead of begging for a better grade. She pushed the pack into my arms. It was heavy enough to contain a small house. Also, because you are carrying 6 people's food. If you fall down the stairs, I lose dinner. That was the first time she smiled at me. 2 hours later, I entered the West Dungeon as a porter. Gavin led the raid. He was a level 14 swordsman with a tired face and a habit of checking every knot twice. Hale carried the shield. Quinn carried the bow. Cato carried enough fire spells to make every corridor smell burned. Alec was the healer. Calder had no official role. Marek had sent him as an observer, which meant he walked in front, gave orders, and carried nothing. Talia served as our guide. I carried 6 packs, 3 tents, 12 mana flasks, a cooking pot, and a folding chair that belonged to Calder. We passed through a slime nest and a tunnel filled with needle bats. Gavin's team fought well. Calder fought only when Talia activated the recording crystal. Each time the crystal glowed, he rushed forward, fired 1 bright spell, and posed over the remains. Public rankings depend on confirmed victories, he explained to me after his 3rd performance. Now, so does public theater. He stared at me. Talia coughed into her hand to hide a laugh. At the entrance to the lower caves, we found the wolf. It lay inside a broken iron trap. Black fur covered most of its body, but blood had turned one side dark red. A metal spike had pierced its back leg. Purple veins spread from the wound toward its chest. Alec glanced at it and kept walking. Cursed Moonwolf, level 3, 12 health remaining. It will die in less than a minute. Talia stopped. Her tail went still beneath her coat. Calder drew his sword. The core should be worth 2 gold. The recording crystal is inactive, I said. His sword paused. Then it can wait, he replied. He followed the others. I set down the packs. Talia looked at me. Human healing makes curse veins spread faster. My healing did nothing to a human. That is not a strong argument. It is the only one I have. I knelt beside the wolf. It bared its teeth, but it could not steer its head. The trap had a small academy seal under the rust. I had seen the same seal on Marek's record book. I touched the wolf's neck. My mana moved. This time the light did not stop at my fingers. It poured into the wolf like water into dry soil. A calm voice spoke inside my mind. It told me that I had found the true target of my gift. Then it offered 3 paths. I could become an evolution healer and force stronger bodies upon beasts. I could become a beast guardian and bind their will to mine, or I could become a monster saint and restore what injury, poison, and human hands had taken from them. The first path promised power. The second promised control. The third promised neither. It promised that every creature would remain free. I chose monster saint. The voice told me one simple rule. Every point of mana I gave a monster would restore 10 points of its true form. Missing health would be repaired first. Every point beyond that would return the creature toward its original bloodline. I had 30 points of mana. The wolf had 12 health out of 80. It needed 68 points to live. I spent everything. 300 points of healing entered its body. 68 closed the wound. The remaining 232 did not disappear. They became evolution. Purple veins burned away. The iron spike fell from the leg. Bones cracked beneath the black fur, but the wolf did not scream. Its body grew until its shoulders reached my chest. Silver lines appeared along its spine. Its level rose from 3 to 4, then 5, then 6. Talia stepped back. The wolf opened its eyes. Its level reached 8. Its maximum health rose from 80 to 260. Its strength climbed from 11 to 34. The trap snapped beneath one paw. Then I fell forward because my mana had reached 0. The wolf caught my coat between its teeth before my face struck the floor. That, Talia whispered, was not normal healing. I noticed you sound very calm. I am lying on a cursed wolf. Panic would be rude. The wolf lowered me gently. Talia stared at it, then at the broken trap. Her name is Zuri, she said. It is carved into the old keeper tag under her collar. She belonged to the moon pack that guarded this floor before the academy declared them wild. Zuri looked at her collar. Then she closed her jaws around it. The metal cracked. Footsteps returned through the tunnel. Gavin appeared first, followed by the others. Hale raised his shield. Quinn drew an arrow. Kato prepared a fire spear. Calder stared at Zuri. What did you do? I healed her. That was level 3. Now she is level 8. The recording crystal in Talia's hand activated. Calder's face changed at once. He raised his sword and moved into its light. Stand back, he ordered. I will protect the team from the evolved monster. Zuri placed one paw across my legs. Gavin did not lower his sword, but he looked at the broken academy trap. But did it attack anyone? No, Talia said. Did Aaron use a control spell? No. Calder pointed at me. An F rank healer cannot evolve a monster. He must be hiding a cursed class. The voice in my head politely informed me that my registered class was now Monster Saint. Talia checked the crystal and winced. The academy listed as an unranked support class. Combat value unknown, human healing value 0. Calder laughed. Monster Saint, that is not a class, that is a confession. The others laughed more carefully. Zuri showed her teeth. The laughter ended. A roar came from the lower tunnel. An iron boar charged around the corner. It was level 10 and almost as wide as the corridor. 3 broken arrows hung from its hide. Gavin shouted for formation, but the passage was too narrow. Hale raised his shield. The boar hit him and carried him backward like a dinner plate caught by the wind. Kato fired. Flames covered the boar, but its iron hide turned red and kept moving. Quinn's arrow struck one eye. Calder stepped behind Gavin. The recording crystal was still active. Calder stepped forward again. Zuri moved before he could cast. She crossed the tunnel in one leap. Her jaws closed around the boar's front leg. Bone broke. The beast rolled, struck the wall, and shook the whole corridor. Zuri was stronger, but she was not invincible. One tusk cut across her shoulder. 40 points vanished from her new health. I had no mana. Talia pulled a blue berry from her guide pouch. This restores 5. It costs 3 gold. I currently own 9 copper. Then you owe me 3 gold, Suffershay. That is an aggressive price for fruit. Eat it. I did. It tasted like cold soap mixed with lightning. 5 points of mana returned. I placed my hand against Zuri's side as she passed me. 50 points of healing closed her shoulder. She turned, struck the boar from the side, and drove it into the floor. Gavin's sword entered the damaged eye. Quinn's second arrow followed it. The iron boar stopped moving. The dungeon voice divided experience according to contribution. Gavin's team received the kill. Zuri received the largest share for damage. I received support experience for restoring her during combat. My level rose from 1 to 3. My maximum mana increased from 30 to 36. Calder received nothing. Talia lifted the recording crystal. It had captured everything. For the rest of the journey, the dungeon monsters did not attack us. Needlebats moved away from our lamps. Slimes flattened themselves against the walls. 2 stone lizards followed Zuri for half a mile, carrying Quinn's dropped arrows in their mouths. We reached the academy gate after sunset. Students, merchants, and 3 ranking officers waited to inspect the raid. The main crystal displayed every confirmed kill above the gate. The iron boar appeared beside Gavin's team. Its silver tusks were valued at 12 gold. Zuri's name appeared as the main contributor. Mine appeared beneath hers as support. Calder's name did not appear. Whispers spread through the crowd. The crystal is damaged, Calder said. Faye from the ranking office adjusted her glasses. It was inspected this morning. Then the porter altered it. Talia handed her the second recording crystal. This one is mine. Faye played the final fight across the gate wall. The image showed Calder stepping behind Gavin when the boar charged. Then it showed him stepping forward when he noticed the recording light. The crowd laughed. Calder's face became the same color as his red velvet chair. That monster belongs to the academy, he shouted. Its contribution belongs to the academy. He drew his sword and swung at Zuri's neck. There were more than 200 witnesses. Zuri caught the blade between her teeth. She bit once. The expensive steel snapped in half. One piece landed at Faye's feet. The other remained in Calder's hand. For 1 perfect second, nobody spoke. Then Hale began to laugh. Quinn joined him. Students near the gate repeated the sound until it rolled across the courtyard. Calder stared at his shortened sword. I took the broken tip from the ground and offered it to him. The repair workshop opens at sunrise, and that made the crowd louder. Iris walked through the gate, wearing the white coat of the human saints. She was the highest-ranked healer in our year. 1 touch of her magic closed the bruise on Hale's chest. Then she examined Zuri without fear. No curse, she said. No control seal, no hostile aura. The wolf acted by choice. Marek stood behind her, his metal hand tightened. Faye finished the official calculation. 12 gold for the tusks and core rights. The payment belongs to Aaron as Zuri's registered healer until ownership is reviewed. His academy position rises from 1,284th to 907th. My name moved upward on the crystal. The F remained beside it. The words Monster Saint appeared below. I paid Talia 3 gold for the mana berry. I still had 9 gold, more than I had owned that morning. That night, Otto allowed Zuri into his small dining room after she promised not to eat the tables. The promise was mostly Talia's. Zuri listened with a serious face. Otto placed a deep clay bowl in front of me. Beef had cooked for hours with onions, carrots, black pepper, and dark gravy. Steam carried the smell across the room. He added 2 thick slices of bread covered in melted butter and a spoon of apple jam. Zuri received roasted bones and half a chicken. She swallowed the chicken before Otto finished setting down the plate. I said half, he complained. Zuri looked at the other half. Otto moved it away. Talia sat opposite me. She had removed her hood. Her fox ears turned toward every sound in the room. A tight bandage showed for a moment beneath her sleeve before she pulled the cloth down. You knew you could not heal humans, she said. You still touched a cursed wolf. The worst result was that nothing happened. The worst result was that she ate you. Then I would not have needed a new room. Talia stared at me. Then she laughed so hard that Otto asked what I had put in the soup. After dinner, I took Zuri to the abandoned keeper shed behind the west wall. The roof leaked in 4 places, the bed leaned to one side, and something had built a nest inside the stove. It was still better than the street. I used 1 gold to rent it for a week. I placed the remaining 8 beneath a loose floorboard. Zuri lay across the door. Her silver markings gave off enough light to see the rain. At midnight, claws scratched the outer wall. Zuri rose without making a sound. I opened the door. 47 wounded monsters waited in the rain. There were foxes, cave lizards, iron mice, young boars, and one slime with an arrow through the center of its body. None attacked. Every creature lowered its head when it saw me. The largest boar carried a broken academy collar between its teeth. Marek's personal seal was stamped into the metal. I had 36 points of mana and 47 patience. That was not a healing problem. It was a mathematics problem wearing fur. I carried the worst cases into the shed. The slime came first. The arrow had missed its core by the width of my finger, but clear liquid leaked onto the floor. If a cave fox had only 9 health left, one iron mouse had lost 2 legs. I placed them in a line and checked every wound before spending a single point. Zuri watched the door. None of the monsters tried to push ahead. The boar with Marek's collar moved the smallest creatures closer to me and waited at the back. That frightened me more than teeth would have. Wild beasts fought for food. These creatures understood triage. I spent 4 mana on the slime, 3 on the fox, and 5 on the iron mouse. 120 points of healing saved all 3. I had 24 mana left. The slime pushed the broken arrow out of its body. Then it placed a blue dungeon mushroom beside my boot. The fox added 2 silver leaves. The iron mouse dropped a piece of bright ore that was nearly as large as its head. Soon a small pile of herbs, ore boss of feathers, and mana fruit stood beside my bed. The monsters had brought payment. I accept vegetables, I told them. I do not accept stolen human fingers. The largest boar looked at the cave lizard beside it. Yelled. The lizard slowly moved one claw behind its back. I decided not to ask. Talia arrived at sunrise with 2 buckets, a medical bag, and Otto's largest cooking pot. She stopped when she saw the line around the shed. I was gone for 6 hours. Oh, business improved. You opened a monster clinic during the night. The location was cheap. She examined the pile of goods. Her eyes widened at the silver leaves. This is moon herb. 1 leaf sells for 4 gold. There were 6 leaves. My clinic had earned more before breakfast than my old stipend paid in 2 months. Do not sell them yet, I said. No, they restore mana, and I have more patience than mana. Talia looked at me for a long moment. Most people would see 24 gold. Most people are not being watched by a boar large enough to enter the house without using the door. The boar seemed pleased. We cleaned wounds while Zuri kept order. Talia knew more about monsters than the academy guides claimed. She mixed moss with warm water for reburned scales. She used strips of my ruined blanket to bind paws and wings. She never moved her left arm higher than her shoulder. I noticed that on the 3rd time. Your bandage is bleeding, I said. It is old. The blood is new. She turned away. Beast folk heal slowly in cold weather. The room was warm enough to make the slime spread across the floor like spilled soup. Talia lifted another bucket. Her face went white. The bucket fell and red water ran between the floorboards. I caught her before she struck the table. The cloth beneath her sleeve had opened. A black wound crossed her ribs and disappeared under her shirt. Purple lines spread around it. They looked exactly like the curse veins that had covered Zuri's leg. Do not call the academy healers, she whispered. Why? They will test my core. Her health had fallen to 52 out of 70. The curse beneath the wound held 180 points of corruption. Human healing had closed the skin many times, but the curse had opened it again from within. My magic had ignored Calder completely. It responded to Talia before I even raised my hand. The voice called her a foxkin with an active monster core. Talia saw the light gather around my fingers. Fear replaced the pain in her eyes. If your class can heal me, she said, then your system thinks I am a monster. My system also thinks Zuri is worth more than Calder. I've shown good judgment so far. Aaron, a category is not a verdict. Do you want the wound gone? She looked at the monsters around us. The cave fox rested its head on her boot. Finally, she nodded. I spent my remaining 24 mana. 240 points entered her body. 18 restored her missing health, 180 burned through the curse, the final 42 returned to the sleeping bloodline inside her core. The black wound closed, purple veins turned gold and vanished. Talia's level rose from 6 to 7. Her copper tail became fuller, and a thin line of pale light appeared at the tips of her ears. Then my mana reached 0 again. I sat on the floor, before the floor could make the choice for me. Talia touched her sight. Her hand came away clean. For several breaths she said nothing. Then she knelt and pressed her forehead against mine. Every healer told me the curse would kill me before winter, she whispered. It is still summer. You were early. She laughed once, but tears ran down her face. Zuri turned her head away. The boar did the same. Even the slime tried to look busy. The door exploded inward. The east, or actually Professor Marek entered with 12 academy guards. His metal hand held a destruction order. Calder stood behind him with a new sword and a metal brace around the wrist Zuri had embarrassed. Marek looked at the monsters, the healing supplies, and Talia kneeling beside me. Aaron, he said, you have collected 47 unregistered threats inside academy grounds. 46, I replied. He looked around. The report says 47. The slime divided while you were speaking. Now there are 48. My mistake. 2 smaller slimes trembled beside the stove. One guard laughed. Marek turned his head. The guard became very interested in the ceiling. Calder pointed at Zuri. Kill the evolved one first. Zuri stood. Every wounded creature behind her stood as well. Marek's guards lowered their spears, but none stepped through the door. There is a legal process, a rough voice said outside. Kellen pushed between the guards. He was an old monster keeper with white hair, a bent back, and 2 missing fingers. He wore an academy coat that had been repaired more often than the west wall. He took Marek's order and read it. A registered support class may hold injured creatures for 1 day, Kellen said. If he passes a public control trial, they become protected familiars until a full review. Marek's eyes narrowed. That the keeper office was closed 10 years ago? That then you should have stopped paying me. We did stop paying you, son. That explains several things. Kellen stamped she at my temporary request with an old bronze seal. Calder stepped closer. Let him take the trial. Put his wolf against the iron hounds. When it loses control, everyone will see what he is. Talia rose slowly. Her new level steadied her legs. And if the hounds refuse to attack, Calder laughed, I will personally pay Iran 60 gold. Faye from the ranking office had followed the guards. She lifted her writing crystal. I recorded that promise. Calder's smile became thinner. The control trial began at the Academy Arena 6 hours later. More than 600 people filled the seats. The gate crystal carried the image to every notice wall in the West District. Students had skipped afternoon lessons. Merchants sold meat pies at the entrance. Someone had already painted a small wooden wolf biting a broken sword. Calder bought it and snapped it in half. My mana had recovered to 18. I spent 5 gold on a flask that restored 10 more. That gave me 28. I had no weapon and no armor. I entered the arena with Zuri on one side and Talia on the other. The crowd shouted Monster Saint as if it were an insult. Iris waited beside the judges. Her white staff could heal 100 human soldiers, but it could do nothing for the creatures in the cages behind Marek. The rules are simple, Marek announced. The Moonwolf must obey 3 commands while facing hostile beasts. Any attack against a human will prove corruption. Any refusal to follow its handler will prove a lack of control. I'm not her handler, I said. The arena heard me through the sound crystal. Marek frowned. Then what are you? I looked at Zuri. She sat beside me because she wanted to. Her healer. The first cage opened. 3 iron hounds came out together. They were level 9. Metal plates had been fixed across their backs. Foam covered their jaws. Red light burned inside their eyes. Kellen gripped the railing. Rage collars. Marek covered the words with his next command. Moonwolf mahexfrei. This is why Zuri did not move. The crowd began to laugh. First refusal, Calder shouted. The iron hounds charged me. Zuri moved then, as she struck the first hound with her shoulder and pushed it aside without using her claws. Talia rolled beneath the second and cut the chain between its armor plates. The third opened its jaws at my throat. I caught the collar with both hands. The hound dragged me across the sand. My knees struck the ground. Its breath smelled of blood and burned herbs. I spent 7 mana, 70 points of restoration entered it. 11 repaired torn muscles. The remaining 59 attacked the curse inside the collar. Red light became white. The metal ring cracked. The hound stopped with its teeth against my neck. Then it lowered its head and pushed the broken collar into my hands. The arena fell silent. Zuri held the second hound against the sand. I used 7 more mana. Talia guided the first toward me, and I spent another 7. 3 collars split within 20 breaths. My remaining mana fell to 7. The hound's levels did not change. Their rage did. Their eyes cleared. One licked blood from my hand. Another walked to Marek and dropped its collar at his feet. The third lifted one leg against Calder's new boot. 600 people saw it happen. The laughter shook dust from the arena roof. Calder jumped backward. "Disgusting beast!" The hound sat beside me with a peaceful expression. Marek raised his metal hand. "The trial is invalid." Aaron used a domination skill. Iris stepped into the arena before he could close the gates. She touched each hound with her staff. White light passed through them. "There is no domination mark," she said. "There are old control wounds around the brain and spine. They were placed by Academy equipment." Marek's jaw tightened. "You are a human healer. You do not understand monster anatomy." "I understand engraved signatures." She held up one broken collar. Marek's seal shone on the inner surface. The gate crystal enlarged it across every wall. The crowd stopped laughing. Kellen entered the arena. He carried the collar found outside my shed and a stack of keeper records. "The Moonpacks did not attack the Academy 10 years ago," he said. "Professor Merrick ordered us to mark them wild after they refused the first callers. I would not sign the destruction report. That is why the Keeper office was closed." Marek looked toward the audience. For the first time, his confidence broke. "My family died in a monster breach," he said. "That I will not let another city trust animals with human faces. A caller is cheaper than a funeral." His reason was real, so were the scars left by his method. I held up the broken ring. "Full of fear. Yeah, fear explains why you started. It does not explain why you hid the evidence." The public crystal repeated my fumpy words across the district. Marek stepped down from the judge's platform. His metal fingers opened and closed. Zuri placed herself between us. All 3 iron hounds joined her. Marek stopped. Faye announced the result before he could change it. The Moon Wolf completed the trial without attacking a human. 3 hostile hounds were pacified. Aaron receives a bronze keeper license. His rank rises from 907th to 431st. My name climbed across the arena wall. The crowd that had shouted Monster Saint as an insult began shouting it again. This time the sound was different. My level rose from 3 to 5 for cleansing 4 advanced curses in one day. My maximum mana increased from 36 to 48. Then Faye faced Calder. The recorded wager was 60 gold. He looked toward Marek. Marek Don did not look back. Calder paid a Wanashun, although out of the mana flask, new bandages, roof boards, and a proper iron stove, I had 53 gold remaining. And it was more money than I had earned during my entire first year at the Academy. We returned to the keeper shed before dark. Kellen repaired the door. Talia patched the roof while the foxes passed her nails one at a time. The iron mice cleared the old nest from the stove. Zuri supervised everyone with the serious expression of a queen who had never touched a broom. Otto arrived with 2 covered pans. The first held potatoes roasted in butter until the edges turned gold. The second held eggs baked with cheese, green onions, and slices of smoked meat. He also brought warm rolls and a pot of berry tea. The monsters gathered outside the open door. We fed them in order of size because the slime had learned that division created extra portions. Talia sat beside me on the new step. Her shoulder touched mine. "The pain is gone," she said quietly. "And all of it?" For the first time in 3 years, she offered me half of her buttered roll. I accepted it. Zuri watched us, then placed her enormous head between our shoulders. Talia Belsa gave her the other half. "Traitor," I told Zuri. Her tail struck the wall hard enough to shake the new roof. For 1 hour, the shed felt like a home. Then the Academy warning bell rang. Red light covered the west wall. A fresh order appeared on every public notice crystal, and Dean Dorian had declared all evolved monsters a danger to human security. My bronze license was suspended pending review. At dawn, Professor Merrick would lead an emergency purge. Kellen read the final line twice. "Town, once the red seal is active," he said, "every teacher in this academy can kill them legally." Outside the shed, 48 monsters looked toward me. Beyond them, hundreds of Academy weapons began to glow in the dark. The purge began at sunrise. That sounded less useful than it was. Kellen crushed our 6 moon leaves into a black pot. Each cup restored 8 mana and tasted like wet grass boiled inside an old boot. Talia said the taste proved it was medicine. I bought 4 standard mana flasks from Alma at the Academy Clinic. She charged 5 goals each and asked why I needed them. I told her the truth. Professor Marek plans to kill my patients. Alma gave me the 4th flask for free. I still paid her. People remembered gifts. Ledgers remembered payments. That left me 33 gold, 4 flasks, and tea worth 24 more. My natural mana was 48. I could restore 1,360 points if I spent everything. 48 monsters waited behind me. The number was not enough. No human deaths, I told them. The boars lowered their heads. The cave lizards tapped their claws. The slimes moved in a slow circle around my boots. If someone attacks, break the weapon. If someone falls, let them fall. Do not bite anything they cannot grow back. One iron hound looked at Calder's boots through the fence. Some boots are allowed, I added. Talia pulled her hood over her ears. That speech needs work. We have survived 2 days. I'm still learning management. Kellen opened a rusted hatch beneath the shed. An old keeper passage led from the west yard to an empty training court. We planned to move the injured creatures underground while Zuri and the stronger beasts guarded the entrance. The academy planned better. Red light flashed through the passage. A barrier rose from the floor and sealed the tunnel before the first slime reached it. Professor Marek had once commanded the keeper office. He knew every exit. The front gate of the yard opened. 80 teachers, guards, and senior students entered in 4 lines. Each carried a weapon marked with a red purge seal, and nets of blue mana hung between steel poles. Behind them stood Calder in bright silver armor. The armor was so polished that he looked like a cooking pot with family money. Marek walked at the center. His metal hand held a black spear. Dean Dorian watched from the academy balcony. His image also appeared on the public crystals across the city. The evolved beasts are a threat to every student, Dorian announced. This action will be recorded for public safety. Faye stood under the balcony with the official recording team. 2 guards watched her hands. The academy controlled the recording. That meant the academy controlled the truth. Talia touched my elbow. A small green crystal was hidden inside her sleeve. Faye gave me a second relay, she whispered. The city guard will receive everything. I looked toward Faye. She adjusted her glasses and stared straight ahead. Marek planted his spear in the ground. Final warning, step away from the creatures, Aaron. Your class will be reviewed with mercy. I did. Will they live? They are monsters. But that was not, there's not an answer. Is the only answer that matters. As on the sound crystal carried his words across the yard and into the city, Zuri stood beside me. Her health was full. Silver lines burned through her black fur. The 3 iron hounds formed a second line. The large boar guarded the smaller creatures. I lifted my hands. My answer is no. Marek gave the order. Blue nets covered the sky. Kato was among the students ordered to cast them. His net flew wide and landed on an empty bench. Quinn shot an arrow through another before it reached us. Hale lowered his shield in front of a group of first-year students and claimed he had slipped. Gavin did not pretend. He drew his sword and cut the nearest net in half. I watched those monsters save my team yesterday, he shouted. Find another captain for your execution. Dozens of witnesses heard him. The hidden relay carried his face to the guard station. Marek pointed the black spear at Gavin. Treason! Put it in writing. The second wave came from the teachers. Mana bolts that struck the yard. Zuri knocked 3 aside above Fossadi Quar. But the 4th hit the boar. His health fell by 110. I reached him and spent 11 mana. The wound closed before a body touched the ground. The crowd on the balcony gasped. 2 cave lizards dragged an injured fox behind the shed. I spent 6 more mana. An iron mouse lost part of its metal shell. 3 mana repaired it. My 48 natural mana vanished in less than a minute. I drank the first flask. Cold fire ran down my throat. 10 mana returned. I spent 8 at once. The monsters did not charge the human line. They followed my rule. Boars struck us weapons instead of legs. Iron mice chewed through bootstraps. Slimes covered the ground beneath the guards and turned a military advance into a public lesson about balance. Calder took 3 steps, slipped, and landed inside the largest slime. Only his head remained outside. The hidden relay caught everything. Get me out, he screamed. The slime carried him away from the battle as carefully as a bull carrying one angry onion. Students on the wall began to cheer for it. Marek drove his black spear into the ground. A red pulse passed through every academy collar in the yard. The monster screamed. Even broken collars reacted. Thin pieces of metal buried beneath old scars grew hot. Zuri dropped to one knee. The three iron hounds struck the earth with their heads. Purple veins returned around their necks. I understood. I understood why Marek had allowed the first collars to break so easily. The visible rings were only locks. The true seals were inside the flesh. My healing had removed the active curses, but I had not known to search for sleeping fragments. I drank the second flask and poured 10 mana into the nearest hound. The hidden fragment burned out. My level rose from 5 to 6. The level increase restored 6 mana. I used it on the second hound. Talia moved beside me with a short blade. She did not attack the guards. She cut nets, kicked weapons away, and used her stronger fox senses to find the wounded. 3 behind the water barrel. She called each, she called. I drank the third flask. The battle became numbers. 5 mana for the lizard with the broken spine. 4 for the fox burned by lightning. 7 for the young boar beneath the net. Every curse I removed gave experience. My level rose to 7. My maximum mana climbed to 62. The increase gave me enough to keep moving, but not enough to reach everyone. Merrick saw that too. Target the healer, he ordered. The black spear left his hand. Zuri jumped between us. The spear passed through her chest. Its point came out beneath her silver mane. Blood covered the ground. Her health fell from 260 to 14. The entire yard stopped. Marek opened his metal hand. The spear remained connected to him by a red chain of light. That weapon destroys monster cores, Iris said from the human medical line. She stared at Marek. You said this was a restraint operation. Do your duty, Saint Iris. Heal the humans. There are no wounded humans. Around her, guards sat in slime. Teachers held broken staffs, and Calder was still traveling slowly across the yard inside his transparent prison. Not one person had been bitten. The public relay showed all of it. I reached Zuri. The black spear prevented her wound from closing. I placed one hand around the shaft and the other against her neck. I had 4 mana left. The last flask gave me 10. The moon tea waited inside the shed. Talia understood before I spoke. She ran through the broken door, returned with the pot, and held it to my mouth. I drank all 6 cups. 48 mana returned. My stomach announced that death might have been the kinder choice. I had 62 mana in total. That meant 620 points of restoration. Zuri needed 246 to recover her health. The spare curse required 120. 254 points would remain for her bloodline. She already held 232 points from my first healing. The next evolution required 400. I released everything. White light covered the yard. The red chain shattered. Marek's spear turned gray and broke into dust. Zuri's wound closed around my hand. Her heartbeat struck once. Once, hard enough on it for me to feel it through the ground. Her level rose from 8 to 9, then 10, then 12. The silver marks across her fur joined into a single pattern. Her body changed inside the light. Claws became hands. It came hands. Her long muzzle shortened. The fur along her back became black. One hair streaked of it with silver. When the light faded, a tall woman knelt where the wolf had fallen. Silver fur covered her shoulders and formed natural armor across her arms and legs. Wolf ears rose through her dark hair. Her eyes remained the same clear gold. Talia removed her cloak and placed it round her. Zuri looked at her new hands. Then she looked at me. Rondi, she said. Her first human word was my name. The public crystals carried it across the city. Thousands of people heard a monster speak. Dean Dorian stood so quickly that his chair fell from the balcony. Marek's face lost all color. Zuri rose. She was unsteady for one step. Then her new level settled into her body. The academy called us wild, she said. Her voice was low but clear. We guarded the lower gate for 300 years. Marek placed iron inside our young. Those who obeyed became hounds. Those who resisted became cores. Marek moved toward the recording team. End the transmission. Faye touched the official crystal. It went dark. The hidden relay stayed bright. Talia held it above her head so everyone could see. The city guard is still watching, she said. People on the wall lifted their own recording stones. One image became 10, then 50. Marek could no longer stop the story. A talking shape proves nothing, he shouted. Evolution can copy human speech. Iris walked to Zuri. May I test your memory under a truth light? Zuri studied her, then nodded. White light formed between Iris's palms. It did not heal Zuri, it only reacted to deliberate lies. Kellen asked the questions. Zuri named the old keeper captains. She described passages sealed before any current student was born. She repeated the words Marek had spoken when he ordered the moonpack trapped. The truth light remained white. Then Kellen showed her a faded drawing from his records. Zuri touched the image of a smaller wolf. My brother, she said, his core powers Marek's metal hand. Every eye turned toward the professor. His gauntlet gave one red pulse. The three freed iron hounds growled. Marek raised the metal fist, but Gavin's sword touched his throat before he could strike. Hale stood on his other side. Quinn aimed at the joints of the gauntlet. Kato let fire gather above his palm. His own raid team had surrounded him. Calder finally escaped the slime. He took one step toward Marek, saw the recording crystals, and took 2 steps away. You supported this purge, Faye called to him. I was investigating it from inside the slimes, Tsoi, he replied. The wall laughed again. Captain Duran entered through the yard gate with 30 city guards. Their blue badges outranked Academy security inside a public criminal inquiry. He looked at the broken weapons, the uninjured humans, and Zuri standing beneath the truth light. Professor Marek, he said, you are under arrest for illegal core extraction, falsified destruction reports, and attempted murder under a false emergency order. Marek looked up at Dorian. The dean stepped back from the balcony rail. That was his answer. Joran locked a mana chain around Marek's human wrist. Kellen removed the metal gauntlet. A small silver core beat inside it. Zuri held the core against her chest. Marek had entered with 80 armed followers. He left between 2 city guards while the monsters he had collared watched in silence. No one cheered when he passed. The silence on Sias was worse. The result appeared on the ranking wall before noon. The purge was declared unlawful. Every surviving creature received temporary sanctuary. My bronze license became silver. My academy possession rose from 431st to 73rd. Removing the buried curses and completing Zuri's evolution raised my level from 7 to 9. My maximum mana reached 78. The city seized Marek's private account. 180 gold was assigned to me for medical costs, destroyed property, and the illegal attack against a licensed familiar. I had spent 20 gold on flasks and consumed herbs worth 24. With the compensation, my remaining money reached 213 gold. It was a good result. It also meant Dean Dorian had allowed Marek to take the blame alone. That afternoon, Otto brought lunch to the repaired shed. Zuri had spent most of the morning learning how doors worked. As a wolf, she had pushed them with her head. As a woman, she continued doing that until Talia showed her the handle. Otto served chicken soup with thick noodles, sweet carrots, garlic, and green herbs. Fresh bread cracked under the knife. A bowl of soft cheese sat beside honey and sliced pears. Zuri held a spoon as if it were a dangerous weapon. She dipped it into the soup, watched the liquid fall out, and used her other hand to lift the bowl. That is allowed, I said. She drank everything at once. The spoon was a trap, she decided. Talia laughed and tied back Zuri's long hair. Kellen found an old keeper uniform that almost fit. Iris sat near the door, still wearing her white saint's coat. I believe the Academy records, she said. I healed raid teams that brought back those cores. Zuri tore bread into careful pieces. You healed the wounded. Marek made the wounds. They are not the same act. Iris lowered her eyes. The monster comforted the saint. That was not a sentence Aster Academy had prepared either of them to hear. Talia handed me a bowl after everyone else had been served. She had added extra chicken and the last spoon of cheese. You spent everything again, she said. Not everything. I kept the roof. Your hands are shaking. She wrapped them around the warm bowl until the tremor eased. Her fingers remained over mine longer than the bowl required. Zuri watched us with open interest. Tray tea. Talia pointed the dangerous spoon at her. It's Stoshite, not one word. I only learned words today, Zuri replied. I have many to use. For a little while, the west yard smelled of soup instead of burned manna. After sunset, Zuri led us to the old keeper passage. Marek feared our voices, she said, but Dorian feared what we remembered. She placed her palm against a stone below the sealed tunnel. Silver light entered an ancient mark. A second staircase opened beneath the first. Kellen had worked at the academy for 40 years. He had never seen it. So we descended past the public dungeon floors. The air grew warm. A slow beat moved through the walls. At the bottom, we found the source of the academy cores. Hundreds of glass vessels filled a chamber larger than the awakening hall. A living core floated inside each one. Some were no larger than coins. Others were the size of human heads. Silver tubes carried their mana upward. Every core beat like a heart. Talia covered her mouth. Iris's white staff shook in her hand. Zuri walked between the vessels until she reached the black door marked with the seal of Dean Dorian. Something moved behind it. The whole chamber inhaled. A woman's voice entered my mind. It was tired, ancient, and strong enough to force every monster above us into silence. "Monster Saint," the voice said, "do not heal me." The black door opened the width of one finger. A golden eye appeared in the darkness. "This city lives because I am dying." By sunrise, Dean Dorian had accused me of trying to murder 80,000 people. The number appeared on every notice, crystal, and aster. It was a strong opening argument. The truth was less simple. Mayella, the monster queen, slept behind the black door. 12 silver chains connected her core to the city barrier. The academy drained her mana each hour and sent it through the smaller cores in the glass vessels. If I broke the chains, the barrier would fail. If I did nothing, Mayella would die within 1 year. She had spoken only those facts before Dorian's security force reached the chamber. Zuri led us away through the keeper passage. Dorian sealed the black door and placed guards on every stair. Then he called a public hearing. I arrived at the city arena under guard. Talia walked on my left, Zuri walked on my right in Kellen's old keeper coat. Iris followed in silence. My silver license had been frozen. My 213 gold had been frozen with it. The academy also placed a red line through my rank of 73rd. The crowd noticed. So did I. Numbers could be taken away. Evidence was harder to remove. More than 3,000 people filled the arena. Public crystals carried the hearing to shops, guard posts, and guild halls. Core merchants occupied the front seats. Teachers filled the second level. The rescued monsters waited behind a city barrier under Joran's protection. Dean Dorian stood on a white platform at the center. He was a tall man with a calm voice and silver hair. Unlike Calder, he did not need to shout to make people listen. Unlike Mark, he did not show anger. That made him more dangerous than both. Aster consumes 1,000 monster cores each month, Dorian said. Those cores produce enough mana to hold back 3 dungeon tides. Without them, 80,000 citizens will face open gates. The arena became quiet. He lifted one hand. An image of the city barrier appeared overhead. 12 sections shone blue. One section flickered red. Aaron entered the protected source chamber without authority. He evolved a moon wolf beyond all known limits. He gathered monsters inside the academy. Now he proposes to change the system that keeps every family in this city alive. As he faced me, "Tell them how many barriers you maintained before this week." "None." "Tell them how many cities depend on your class." "None yet." Several people in the front seats nodded. Dorian had chosen good questions. "Then why?" he asked. "How should I should I risk 80,000 human lives on an F-rank healer who discovered his class 3 days ago?" Like Calder sat behind him with both boots hidden under his chair. "You should not," I said. The answer moved through the arena like a cold wind. Talia looked at me. Dorian's eyes narrowed by the smallest amount. "You should test the method first," I continued. "In public, with 1 core, no barrier risk. If it fails, you lose nothing. If it succeeds, you stop killing 1,000 creatures each month." The core merchants began whispering. Dorian watched them. His problem was no longer only safety. A common core sold for 20 gold. 1,000 cores meant 20,000 gold each month. Too many people ate from that river. "Monster cores cannot heal Hifrikfrilian. They are materials after extraction. That is what the Academy record says. Let us see what my magic says." Faye carried a sealed glass vessel onto the platform. Captain Joran had selected it from the public barrier store, not from Dorian's chamber. The core inside belonged to a common stone wolf. It had 8 health remaining out of 100. It would burn out before sunset. The city engineers connected it to a separate testing pillar. A large mana counter appeared above the arena. Dorian examined every seal himself. "One condition," he said. "The core must power the West Barrier model for 1 full hour. If your method causes a surge, the test ends. If the output falls below 1,000 mana, the test fails. And if it succeeds, the charges will be reviewed. That means nothing." The crowd reacted before he did. I continued. If it succeeds, every healed monster receives sanctuary. The city opens an independent core clinic. My frozen license and money are returned. You are bargaining from a prisoner's mark. You are bargaining in front of 3,000 voters. The upper seats laughed. Dorian glanced at the public crystals. Accepted, he said. Faye recorded the agreement. I placed my hand against the glass. My magic moved through it without resistance. The voice inside my mind did not call the object a stone wolf core. It called it a living stone wolf heart. Extraction had removed its body, but its original state remained inside the bloodline. It needed 92 points to regain full health. I spent 10 mana, 100 points of restoration entered the core, 92 repaired the damage, 8 became origin growth, the dull stone turned blue. The testing pillar lit from bottom to top, the mana counter climbed past 100, then 500, then 1,000. It did not stop. The number reached 3,000 before the first minute ended. The arena stood. At 10 minutes, the core had produced 6,000 mana. At 30 minutes, it passed 9,000. The original record predicted that it would lose 20 health during the test. It lost none. Core merchants shouted that the counter was false. City engineers checked it with 3 independent stones. All 3 showed the same output. At the end of 1 hour, the healed core had produced 12,000 mana, 12 times the required amount. It still held 100 health. Across Aster, workshops stopped buying replacement cores. The trade hall suspended sales when prices fell faster than its board could display them. Families who had never cared how barriers worked began asking why a living answer had been buried for 10 years. The shock moved beyond the brandy on the arena. Bells rang at the West Barrier Tower. Workers stopped in the market. Every core price on the trade board fell by half before Dorian spoke again. Calder stared at the counter. He ruined the market. The core merchants around him turned slowly. Calder lowered his head and hid the rest of himself behind Dorian's chair. Faye announced the result. The test succeeded. The crowd shouted. The testing pillar exploded. Blue fire crossed the platform. I pulled Faye down. Zuri covered us with her body. Talia dragged a burned engineer away from the pillar. The healed core remained whole. The silver cable beneath it had split. Dorian raised his voice over the panic. Unstable evolution. End the test and destroy the core. Iris knelt beside the engineer. Her human healing closed the burns while I reached for the cable. My magic responded. The silver line was not ordinary metal. It had been made from dried dungeon veins. Thousands of thin monster nerves. Carried up out of mana beneath the arena and flung them across the city. The Academy had built its barrier from dead pieces and called the whole structure a machine. To my class, it was one injured creature. I spent 15 mana, 150 points flowed through the broken cable. Black tissue became silver. The split sealed. Living branches spread beneath the platform and connected themselves to the testing pillar. So the blue fire vanished. Every barrier light above the arena turned green. My level rose from 9 to 11. The crowd had seen the explosion. It also saw the repair. Joran pulled a narrow black wedge from beneath the cable. This does not belong in the conduit. A city engineer took it. It is an overload blade. Someone placed it here after the morning inspection. The public crystals showed the blade. Dorian did not move. I looked at him. You did not trust the test. I did not trust an unknown change to the city barrier. So you caused the failure you warned them about? I created a controlled fault. If your method could not survive one broken line, it could not survive a dungeon tide. That was not a foolish reason. It was still sabotage. Faye stepped forward with a stack of copied records. There is more, she said. Dorian turned toward her. You work for the Academy ranking office. I work for Accurate Record. Oh, she sent the first page to the arena crystals. 10 years earlier, Kellen had proposed keeping Guardian packs alive and drawing small amounts of renewable mana from their cores. Marek rejected the plan. Dorian had added the final order. Intelligent monsters create unstable public sympathy. End the Keeper program before trial. The Dean's signature filled the sky. Zuri read the sentence aloud. The rescued Ironhounds began to growl. Dorian faced the crowd. The city had survived 2 breaches in 1 season. We had no time for experiments. I chose a proven barrier over creatures no citizen had seen. Then why hide the choice? Iris asked. because people demand clean hands from those who hold dirty walls together. So, for the first time, his calm voice became tired. I understood him. That did not free him from the result. You could have tested Kellen's plan, I said. You decided the answer first. Marek did the same at my exam. The words reached every student who had watched Dorian erase my rank that morning. The city council occupied a stone box Astinas above the west gate. Its 5 members spoke together for several minutes. The crowd waited. Then the oldest councillor raised a blue seal. Lardisoich, the core clinic will be created under city authority, she announced. The academy will surrender the lower chamber for inspection. Dean Dorian is suspended from barrier control pending a criminal review. Dorian's silver academy seal went dark on his coat. At the same moment, my name returned to the ranking wall. My silver license became permanent. My position rose from 73rd to 1st on the city contribution board. Students who had laughed when Monster Saint appeared beside my name now shouted the class from every level of the arena. Dorian looked at the healed core, then at me. Today you proved that I was wrong, he said. Tomorrow the capital will ask whether human survival should depend on your mercy. They will not accept one public test. Then I will give them more than one. He almost smiled. That answer is why they will fear you. The city paid 300 gold in advance for the first week of core treatment. The continuing contract promised 300 each week if the output remained stable. My frozen 213 gold was released. The West Keeper Grounds became a protected sanctuary instead of academy property. I healed 11 damaged cores before evening. Every restoration gave more experience because the extracted hearts belonged to creatures far above my level. I rose from 11 to 13. My maximum mana reached 120. The city barrier reached full power for the first time in 6 years. My personal balance reached 513 gold. My home still had 1 room, 3 chairs, and a roof repaired by foxes. I preferred the home. Otto used part of the clinic payment to prepare a feast in the sanctuary yard. He roasted chickens with garlic, salt, and sweet red pepper until the skin became crisp. Rice cooked in butter beneath the meat and absorbed every drop. Talia made a mushroom sauce with cream and black pepper. Iris brought fresh apples. I arrived with the warm tart she claimed was evidence. Zuri had learned to use a spoon, and she now considered forks suspicious. And the rescued creatures are around then long wooden tables, showed small slimes get carried fond cups of berry water inside their bodies and delivered them without spilling anything. Kellen said it was the best service the Academy had ever produced. Gavin, Hale, Quinn, Kados, and Niskudeya Yesaido and Alec joined us after their suspension orders were cancelled. Alec apologized to Zuri for declaring her too dangerous to save. You were correct, she said. His face fell. I was dangerous, Zuri continued. I was also worth saving. Alec nodded. He did not forget the difference. When the apple tart was gone, Talia pulled me away from the table. She held a folded green cloak. A simple silver paw had been sewn over the heart. The city wanted to give you white saint robes, she said. White cloth near 48 monsters was a foolish plan. You made this today? The iron mice handled the needles. I prevented them from sewing the sleeves shut. She placed the cloak around my shoulders. It smelled of clean wool and the mushroom sauce on her hands. You saw a healer before the ranking board did, I said. I saw a man arguing for the last 2 targets. While 400 people laughed, the healer took longer. She rose on her toes and kissed my cheek. Then she returned to the table before I found a useful answer. Zuri sat beside Iris with a fork in one hand. Both of them watched me. Not one word, I warned. I have learned many more today, Zuri said. The sanctuary gate opened. 200 white-armored knights stood beyond it. Every breastplate carried the golden sun of the capital church. Their formation filled the street from wall to wall. At the center waited a man in red and white robes. His staff held 5 purified monster cores. Cardinal Valen walked into the yard without asking permission. The city councillor followed him, pale and silent. Valen looked at the monsters eating beside humans. He looked at my new cloak. Finally, he unrolled a gold document. Aaron of Aster, he said, the capital recognizes no creature called a patient. Every monster core belongs to the crown church. Every evolved beast is forbidden. He lifted the document so the remaining recording crystals could see the imperial seal. By order of the solar throne, you will surrender the beasts and receive judgment at dawn. Refusal carries immediate execution. Behind him, 200 holy spears lowered toward my home. Cardinal Valen gave me until dawn to surrender. I used the time to request a larger breakfast. Otto filled the sanctuary kitchen before sunrise. He fried thick slices of beef with onions and sweet pepper, wrapped them in warm flatbread, and brushed each roll with garlic butter. Natalia packed three cheese flowers, packed hard cheese, boiled eggs, apple slices, and small cinnamon cakes into a basket. I beside the repaired stove, with Talia. The green cloak she had made rested over my shoulders. Her fox ears kept turning toward the armored steps outside, but her hands remained steady. You could leave through the keeper tunnel, I said. So could you. They did not order your execution. Man, they called every based folk core church property. That sounds close enough. She pushed the last cinnamon cake onto my plate and fell. Besides, I saw you before you became valuable. I want to see what you do now that everyone is watching. I split the cake and returned half. I plan to stay alive. Good plan, add details. Iris provided them. Church law allowed an accused healer to demand a public trial of mercy before execution. A cardinal could choose the test, but he could not stop the recording. Valen accepted before Iris was finished reading the law. He was too certain to refuse. At noon, 5,000 people gathered in the city square, while thousands more watched through public crystals. The council, city guard, and church occupied separate platforms. The rescued monsters entered last. Humans moved away at first. Then a small slime carried water to a crying child, and the child's mother accepted it. Valen saw that. Emotion is not evidence, he announced. A trained beast may copy kindness. A cursed class may create obedience. The empire survives because holy law separates people from resources. He raised his staff. 5 pale cores shone inside the gold frame. 30 frontier cities depend on extracted cores. More than 4 million humans sleep behind barriers powered by them. If Aaron's claim spreads, miners will refuse extraction, armies will lose weapons, and gates will open. Mercy for beasts will become a death sentence for children. The square became quiet. Valen's motive was larger than pride. That made the answer harder. Then use healed cores, I said. A living heart produced 12,000 mana yesterday and lost no health. One result is not a civilization. Neither is one fear. Hashid, raising the public crystal's cave, carried the answer across the city. Valen struck his staff against the platform. A great cage rose from beneath it. A sun lion stood inside. The beast was level 25, its golden mane burned with white fire. A church collar covered half its neck. Thin chains entered its shoulders and joined the 5 cores in Valen's staff. This sacred guardian has served the church for 12 years, Valen said. It carries no corruption. It obeys because holy creatures recognize human authority. If your healing is truly mercy, touch it. If nothing changes, surrender your false title. The cage opened. The sunlion walked toward me. Each step burned the stone. I lifted one hand, and Zuri and Talia remained behind me. The lion stopped close enough for its mane to heat my face. My magic showed me the truth. Its maximum health was 400. It had lost 120. The collar and chains held 900 points of corruption. Its true bloodline had been forced down for 12 years. I had 120 mana. That meant 1,200 points of restoration. It was exactly enough. Valen had prepared a test that he believed I could not understand. He had also brought me the perfect patient. I placed my hand against the lion's forehead. The crowd held its breath. I spent everything. 120 points restored the missing health. 900 burned through the church corruption. The remaining 180 returned to the lion's bloodline. White fire turned gold. The chains inside its shoulders came out like dead roots. The collar split into 7 pieces. All 5 cores in Valen's staff began to shake. The lion's level rose from 25 to 30. Its mane expanded until sunlight covered the platform. The church knights lowered their eyes. Valen did not. Command it, why said to me, I cannot. Then you failed. The lion turned away from me. For one moment, Valen smiled. Then the beast walked to him. It bit the top half of his staff and crushed the gold frame. 5 pale cores fell across the platform. The lion placed one paw on Valen's red robe and pulled. The cloth tore from shoulder to ankle. 5,000 witnesses saw the cardinal standing in white underclothes beside his broken symbol of office. The first laugh came from a child. The second came from Hale. Then the whole square followed. Valen's face remained still. Only his ears turned red. The beast attacked a servant of the church, Mahi said. It attacked your clothing, I replied. The trial asked whether it understood mercy. The laughter became louder. Faye announced the numbers through the city crystal. The Sun Lion recovered 120 health. 900 points of curse energy vanished. Its level increased by 5. No human received damage. My class received experience for cleansing a creature 12 levels above me. I rose from 13 to 15. My maximum mana increased to 144, and the level change restored 24. Valen looked at the 5 cores on the ground. Continue the trial, he ordered. The holy knights raised their spears. Iris stepped between us. She wore the white coat of an academy saint and the gold badge of the capital church. She removed the badge and placed it on the stone. The trial of mercy forbids execution while the result is under witness review, she said. Valen stared at her. You were trained by the church. That is why I know the law. Stand aside. No. Her refusal reached every church hall connected to the public crystal. Valen raised one empty hand. The 5 fallen cores turned black. The square shook. Gold lines had been carved beneath the stones before the trial. They formed a purification array around the sanctuary monsters. The 200 holy spears supplied the outer circle. So no, the 5 extracted cores formed his heart. Valen had not come to test me. He had built an execution ground. Mercy has been reviewed. He says, he said, the threat remains. Purify them. The knights struck their spears down. A wall of white fire rose around Zuri and the rescued creatures. The small slimes dried at the edges. Iron mice collapsed. The boar with Marek's collar dropped to both knees. More than 5,000 points of monster health began to fall at once. I had 24 mana. I could restore 240. The numbers were not close. Zori opened a narrow gap in the firewall, and the monsters pushed the smallest creatures through first. The Sun Lion roared. Gold fire met white fire above the square. The 2 forces broke windows on 3 streets. Valen reached for the fallen cores. I reached them first. My magic entered all 5 through the living lines beneath the platform. The purification array was built from monster nerves, just like the city barrier. It connected every target to one middle, one wounded system. I did not need enough mana to heal 5,000 health at once. I needed enough to restore the part that was forcing the damage. Each core held 40 points of active corruption. 5 cores required 200 points. I spent 20 mana. The black color vanished. The purification array changed direction. White fire flowed away from the trapped monsters and returned to the spears. Holy weapons cracked from the tips downward. 200 knights dropped harmless wooden shafts at the same time. The square stared at the harmless sticks. The crowd laughed again. The 5 restored cores released their stored mana. The living line returned 120 points to me. Experience struck in 5 waves. My level rose from 15 to 16, then 17, then 18. My maximum mana reached 180. With the 4 points I had kept, I now carried 124 mana. Then something below the square broke. Valen's purification fire had reached the west dungeon seal. A deep crack crossed the road. Purple smoke rose through it. The crowd stopped laughing. Dozens of cursed beasts climbed from the opening. They were not patients from my sanctuary. Their eyes were empty. Bone plates covered their faces. The first creature struck a city guard and threw him across the square. Panic moved faster than any monster. People rushed toward the narrow streets. Duran's guards could not form a line through the crowd. This is what I warned you about, Valen shouted. Monsters always attack. Zuri ran past him and caught the wounded guard before he struck the ground. Iris healed the man's broken ribs. The Sun Lion jumped over the crowd and landed between the cursed beasts and the children. The iron hounds joined it. Boars formed a wall. Cave lizards pulled people away from the crack. Every monster Valen had ordered killed now protected the humans watching the trial. The public crystals recorded everything. I could not heal the whole attacking pack by touch. There were 36 beasts and only seconds before they reached the crowd. The restored array still connected the square to the city core network. I placed both hands against the living gold line. My class had grown in range, not in purpose. The rule remained the same. 1 point of mana became 10 points of restoration for monsters. I sent 100 mana into the network. She had seen 1,000 points of healing spread through the cracked dungeon's seal and entered the cursed beasts. Wounds closed first, then the purple smoke began to burn away. The first beast stopped 3 steps from the sun lion. A bone plate fell from its face. The second collapsed beside it. The third shook until a black spike came out of its spine. One after another, 36 creatures lowered their heads. Not one reached the crowd. The square became silent enough to hear the broken spears rolling over stone. Faye's voice shook as she read the public count. Are 36 hostile creatures purified, 5,000 citizens protected, human deaths 0, monster deaths 0. The city contribution board, so Biquedo flashed above her. My name remained first. The title beneath it changed from F rank Monster Saint to Sant of Aster. Valen stared at the words. The capital does not recognize that title. The oldest city councillor stepped onto the platform. Though the capital is not standing in this square. We are. The Joran, the Gatnsde Washash, Gavin's team, the clinic workers, and the protected families moved between put me and the holy knights, it says. Valen looked toward his 200 followers. Arrest the heretic. No spear rose. The knight who had watched Zuri's breakfast removed his helmet. The trial recorded mercy, your grace. Church law requires review. Another knight, Aksai, lowered his broken shaft, then another. Valen had arrived with 200 weapons and an execution order. He left the platform with a torn robe, a broken staff and no one willing to carry either. Before the door closed, he faced me. I had to say, you saved 1 square, and he said, the Empire will ask what happens when every core mine closes. Tell them the clinic opens tomorrow. The carriage departed through a crowd that no longer moved aside for it. Within 1 hour, citizens donated 1,500 gold to the sanctuary. Faye placed every coin in a public ledger for beds, food, medicine, and a second clinic. My own balance remained 513 gold. My level remained 18. My local status had reached the top of the city. At sunset, the capital answered. My title was declared heresy across the empire. A reward of 10,000 gold was placed on my capture. We ate the remaining beef rolls with hot onion soup. The flatbread had become soft from the juices. Talia warmed the cinnamon cakes over the stove. Zuri placed 4 forks beside her bowl to prove she had mastered them. Iris had no church badge now. She still had her white staff. You cannot heal humans, she said. I cannot heal monsters. Then the clinic needs 2 doors. 1 doors, Talia said. 2 treatment rooms. Doors cost money. A healer did not need to save everyone alone. After dark, I returned to the lower chamber. Talia, Zuri, and Iris came with me. Dorian waited at the sealed stair because no one understood the old barrier better. He opened the black door. Maella lay beneath 12 silver chains. Her body filled the cavern. Black scales covered wings large enough to shadow the arena. A woman's face rested beneath a crown of curved horns. 1 golden eye watched us. The other remained closed under a web of purple veins. By then, 8 hours of rest had returned my mana to its full 180. My healing sense reached for her. The result almost forced me to my knees. Her health was full. Her curse was not an injury to the body. It held 10 million points and reached through the 12 chains towards somewhere far beyond Aster. I had 180 mana. At my current rate, I could restore 1,800 points. It was less than a drop in a lake. Now you understand, Maella said inside my mind. I understand the number. Then leave me chained. No, Dorian stared at me. You cannot cure that. Not today. I placed both hands against the nearest chain. Talia stood close enough for her shoulder to touch mine. Zuri held the recovered core of her brother. Iris raised her staff in case the human bodies behind us needed her. I spent all 180 mana. 1,800 points of restoration entered Maella. The curse fell from 10 million to 9,998,200. It was a tiny change. The entire dungeon moved. Every glass core in the chamber turned towards me. The city barrier rang like a bell. Maella's closed eye opened for the first time in 300 years. The Academy did not create this curse, she said. Jorian only learned to profit from the blood it spilled. Valen protects the system because the system feeds something beneath the capital. Purple light moved through the chain under my hands. It traveled away from Aster through a buried network of living cores. Something at the far end answered. Maella's voice became a whisper. His name is Orcus. He has been asleep for 1,000 years. The answering pulse crossed the distance in one breath. It entered the chamber and spoke through every stolen heart at once. Aaron, Orcus said, I found you.